a man who they say he murdered 3. Strange things have happened there. No stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Chris James. I know somewhere out there, some wild man has come up with beef flavored coffee. I say, nay, nay. I only drink the best coffee in the universe, which is found at 4501 McPherson, the Organic Man Coffee Trike. Coffee makes the world go around, and the best coffee keeps us all from falling off. Any day now, I expect to find Annabelle Lee in my studio. She has become unemployed here lately. Trailer Trash Terrors is MIA. So are several of my favorite podcasts. It's gotten to a point I'm having to look for new people to listen to. Hint, hint. Come on, guys. David Elliott, the guy who sent me the Art Bell coffee cup, asked if I would do a show about marketing lies. Things those people promise while delivering something far less. In the 1970s, we were bombarded with a song. 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Now I tried searching for the actual ingredients of their meat and found a lot of folks all saying the same thing. All beef. I did every combination of words to sort out the truth, but I guess the big bucks have decided what is the truth. I asked folks my age, and they all remember hearing things about additives that were far from being beef. That is what I remember from back then. And surprisingly, there's a lot of folks who agree with me. The old beef patties contained kangaroo meat, as well as other dead animals. There was a lot of soy mixed in to make the meat go further. This is what I heard. This is what a lot of other people heard. I have no proof. Because the public began to question the all beef claim, it was changed to all meat. When the question of how much soy was being mixed in, they dropped the commercial altogether. Like I said, this is how I remember it. Uh, that was the 70s. I remember the all beef patties and Watergate. A couple of rather large lies. Where's the beef? First came to the public audience in an American television commercial for the Wendy's hamburger restaurant in 1984. The strategy behind the campaign was to distinguish competitors. You can fill in the names for yourself. Big name hamburgers like the Big Mac and the Whopper from Wendy's single by focusing on the large bun used by the competitors and the large beef patty used by Wendy's. In the ad titled Fluffy Bun, an elderly woman, played by actress Clara Peller, receives a burger with a large bun, but the comically small patty, a fictional competitor, of course, which used the slogan, Home of the Big Bun. The small patty angers the woman, who exclaims, Where's the beef? Joe Seidelmeyer, who directed the commercial, wanted her to say, "Where is all the beef?" But Peller was unable to say the original line due to having emphysema. I think the way she said it was perfect. Kids were yelling the phrase all over town, especially as walking past Mickey D's. The commercial was originally supposed to star a young couple, but Seidelmeyer did not find the concept funny, and he changed it to an elderly woman. Once more, this was probably what made the commercial stick in people's minds. Sequels featured Peller yelling at a fluffy bun executive on board his yacht. She had gotten him on the phone. In another commercial, Peller is seen approaching fast food drive up windows at the home of the Big Bun, a restaurant with one golden arch. The drive up window gets slammed shut before she can complete the line. Later, 1984, Nashville songwriter DJ McLeod wrote and performed the hit song Where's the Beef? As a promotion for Wendy's restaurant. There are no websites telling how many drive-throughs had to contend with customers asking the question, but knowing the folks I used to hang out with, it must have been a few hundred. I knew people that would go to McDonald's and order a Whopper, things like that. Wendy's dropped the ball when a cow named Darcy walked away from a dairy farm and showed up outside a McDonald's drive-through window. The McDonald's in Brush, Colorado had a surprise when Darcy walked up to the drive-through window and bumped the glass with her head. It appeared she just wanted some attention. Darcy did make it home safely without the help of her owners. But it appears she isn't the first cow to visit a Mickey D's. Wendy's should have done whatever it took to get their hands on that video and maybe even the cow. They could have played Peller's voice as the cow was bumping up against the window. It's kind of like seeing a chicken walking into Chick-fil-A. Or Colonel Sanders. The advertising campaign ended in 1985 after Peller performed in a commercial for Brago pasta sauce, where all she said was, "I found it. I really found it." Uh, fi- Finally answering the question as to where's the beef. She didn't say where's the beef. She just said she had found it. There were many Where's the Beef promotional items, including bumper stickers, frisbees, clothing patches, and a Milton Bradley board game, which I have no idea how that would work. I guess you ran around the board looking for the beef. 2011, Wendy's revived the phrase for a new ad campaign, finally answering its own question with, "Here's the beef." During the Black Plague of 2020, when stores were having a hard time getting a hold of anything, they tried the ad campaign once more. The 2023 Daytona 500 Legacy Motor Club driver Noah Gregson was sponsored by Wendy's, driving car number 42, a Chevy Camaro with "The Beef" written on the hood. The woman that made the question famous was named Clara Peller, who was born Rocha Swidlova in Polotsk, Imperial Russia, August 4th, 1902. She became a manicurist and later a television personality when in her 80s. She starred in the 1984 Where's the Beef advertising campaign. Peller continued to make the most of her newfound fame, granting numerous press interviews and making several guest appearances. She regularly told interviewers and friends that she didn't know exactly how old she was. One time, she told a Social Security clerk that she didn't have an exact date of birth, but that they should just assign her whichever one would get her Social Security. Some folks might think, having become popular and somewhat wealthy, why would she want Social Security? If you work in the United States, they have been taking Social Security out of your paycheck the entire time. It's your money. The government is simply holding it for you until you qualify to get it back. And never mind all the harebrained schemes those folks in Washington use as an excuse to steal more of our money. It used to be like putting your money in a bank account. Once you reached a certain age, an age that keeps getting farther away, you get the money back, hopefully. Peller also made an appearance in a low budget 1985 Neil Israel comedy called Moving Violations, which, yes, I saw it. The advertisement for the movie simply showed Peller driving around in a car on a runway. She was also in Larry Cohen's The Stuff. She appeared in Abe Vigoda in a commercial, in the Remote Control Man episode of Steven Spielberg's show, Amazing Stories, and she had a cameo as a disgruntled motorist. April 7th, 1986, she made an appearance at WrestleMania 2 in Chicago Rosemont Horizon, where she was the guest timekeeper for the 20-man invitational over-the-top rope battle royale involving wrestlers and NFL players. I missed that one. Peller died August 11th, 1987, in Chicago, 1 week after her 85th birthday. She had congestive heart failure. She is buried at the Wildheim Jewish Cemetery in Forest Park, Illinois, if you want to go by and pay your respects. This phrase, "Where's the beef?" is right up there with saying, "Let's go." No, I'm not going to say it. Probably not a good idea. Google doesn't have a sense of humor. When somebody tells you something that you know or suspect is a total load of poo, you now know what to say. Let's go. No. Where's the beef? Truth in advertising rules require that advertisements must be truthful, not misleading, and when appropriate, backed by scientific evidence, as enforced by the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC. Advertisements must be truthful and cannot contain false or misleading statements. This applies to all forms of advertising, including print, online, and broadcast. When making claims about a product or a service, advertisers must have adequate substantiation. This means that claims should be supported by reliable scientific evidence, especially when relating to health, safety, or performance. Advertisements must not omit information that is material to the consumer's decision to purchase a product. This includes any information that could influence a consumer's choice. The FTC defines an advertisement as unfair if it causes substantial injury to consumers that is not outweighed by benefits. This includes practices that may exploit. Sorry about that. I seem to have a frog. Why do they call it a frog? I guess because you croak when you speak. This includes practices that may exploit vulnerable populations or mislead consumers. The FTC is the primary federal agency responsible for enforcing truth in advertising laws. It monitors advertising practices and can take action against companies that violate these rules, including issuing fines and requiring corrective advertising. The Truth in Advertising Act makes it illegal to lie in advertising. A business advertising that it will sell a certain item for a certain price is a lie unless they have the actual item available for sale and for that stated price. Such an ad would be illegal if not a lie, but through deception. I used to shop at the Sears store here because it was close to my house, and in other towns, they always had what I needed. Here in Laredo, they would show pictures of tool sets with so many of each item and spread out and looking really cool. Nowhere on the shelf could I find the items that were on display. I asked one of the sales clerks, and I was told that particular tool set is not available in Laredo. It has to be ordered. Nowhere on the sign did it say it needed to be ordered. There was a shipping charge as well. That cool set wasn't so cool after all. It was nearly twice as much as it was advertised for. Eventually, I just stopped going to Sears, and apparently so did everybody else. This was the same Sears where the little girl used to hang out. False advertising, but hey, this was Laredo, and they were kind of in their own set of rules. When the Truth in Advertising Act became a law, Congress gave themselves a loophole. Basically, they said politicians can lie to us because, well, that's politics. If we lie to Congress, we go to jail. If Congress lies to us, it's just politics. In April, the Supreme Court unanimously ruled that politicians can lie during political campaigns. In Susan B. Anthony List versus Dryhouse, the court ruled a politician's right to lie during a campaign is protected under the free speech provision of the First Amendment. So they have the right to lie. In that case, Susan B. Anthony List, a pro life group, tried to erect billboards during a congressional campaign, accusing incumbent Steve Dryhouse of supporting taxpayer funded abortions because he voted in favorable of the Affordable Care Act. Dryhouse objected, filing a complaint under an Ohio law that prohibited false statements during a political campaign. His complaint cited the fact that since 1976, the Hyde Amendment has prohibited the use of federal funds to pay for abortions, even though it was included in the Affordable Care Act. That's just how it is. After losing the election, Dryhouse withdrew his complaint, but the SBA list pursued a separate suit that challenged the Ohio law, claiming it violated the First Amendment right to free speech. Two lower courts ruled the group could no longer pursue the challenge because the election was over and there was no longer basis for sufficient immunity perjury. Oh, sorry, imminent perjury. And it was those lower court decisions that the Supreme Court unanimously reversed, thereby establishing the precedent allowing lying in a campaign. So, what they're telling us is a politician can come out and say anything they want to get elected. Doesn't that just make you feel warm all over? There's only been one presidential candidate who has done what he said he was going to do. Well, except for locking up that one person in jail, but, well, that's another story. Lying is a form of sales that can be found way back in time. During the Civil War, a company was able to sell boots to the Union Army. The boots lasted weeks until the soles fell off. The company said, oh, those boots were meant for the cavalry, not the infantry. In the early 20th century, before people were aware of the lasting effects of cigarettes, many people, including doctors and children, were partial to a good puff of smoke now and then. Now we know the cigarettes can do harm to your health. It's not so much the tobacco, it's what the companies have been adding all kinds of chemicals to the products that make them more addictive. They also add things that make the tobacco burn. If you don't keep puffing on a cigar, it goes out. But a cigarette, if you light it, it just keeps burning because chemicals. And just think you're pulling those chemicals inside your body. Multiple companies, such as asthma cigarettes, Pall Mall, and Big Tobacco, made impressive claims about their products. They said their cigarettes were good for your health and would reduce the chance of bronchial infections. And some doctors even endorsed these products. Listen to the science. Remember that phrase? Oh, wait. That was more recently, wasn't it? Though this may have reflected the beliefs at the time, when science brought to light the health detriments of smoking, the companies quickly dropped those ads. It's funny how the science will support one idea and then it'll support the other side of the idea. Remember when eggs were bad for you? Oh my God, don't eat eggs. Now all of a sudden it's like it's the incredible edible egg. They used to say milk was bad for us. Well, milk is not bad for you, depending on which scientists you listen to. A 1946 advertisement for Camel cigarettes claimed that doctors preferred the brand in a supposedly independent survey, which was revealed to have been conducted by an ad agency using suspected methods. The cigarette commercial showed actors dressed as doctors puffing on cigarettes in between house calls. Even at the time, there was substantial evidence that cigarettes could be bad for you. Some viewed the use of doctors to imply their health, a particularly despicable act of deceptive advertising. Some folks are really cheap to an excess. In 1988, when we were at the academy, I smoked. I smoked because it was a stressful environment, and smoking was a kind of a crutch that seemed to help. Some of my classmates were too cheap to buy their own cigarettes, so they would bum them off of those of us who were shelling out our own hard earned money in order to feed their addiction. To stop this activity, I began smoking Camel filterless. They would make your head spin. Nobody wanted to bum cigarettes off of me after that. Funny thing is, I was the second fastest runner in my class. I ran and I smoked. At least I didn't smoke while running. In the 1940s, Dr. William Frederick Koch claimed he had invented a drug that could cure all human ills, which he called glyoxylide. It would fix everything from tuberculosis and cancer to STDs. A lot of desperate people bought his medication hoping for a cure. Over 3,000 health practitioners around the U.S. stocked the treatment and charged patients anything up to $300 for a single dose. That is $7,000 in today's money. Suspicious government chemists began testing this drug, and they discovered that Koch's so-called glyoxylide was in fact distilled water. The doctor fled to Rio de Janeiro not long after, so he was never prosecuted. But the drug was classified as a fraud by the FDA. Funny that they finally did something. American pharmaceutical company Bayer advertised that their vitamins could prevent prostate cancer in men due to an ingredient called selenium back in 2009. Although selenium is very effective in fighting stress and boosting the immune system, there's no proof that it has anything to do with preventing prostate cancer. Bayer was sued due to the radio and television ads that made these claims, and they had to pay $4.47 million to Illinois, California, and Oregon, where the vitamins had been highly marketed. Acetylsilic acid. Ooh, that sounds kind of deadly, kind of like LSD. Acetylsilic acid is a derivative of salicylic acid, a commonly used pharmaceutical agent for over hundreds, even thousands of years. The primary use of salicylic acid came from the Sumerians, who discovered an analgesic property of the willow plant. Around 4000 BC, the analgesic and antipyretic effects of the willow leaves were known among the Assyrians and the Egyptians. In 1824, bioactive components of willow bark were completely extracted by two Italian pharmacists. And 4 years later, the main component of willow, salicin, was isolated. In 1897, Felix Hoffmann, a German chemist, modified the chemical structure of salicylic acid to synthesize a derivative that didn't have all the nasty side effects. Ultimately, by acidicyling the salicylic acid, he developed something he called aspirin. He took his newfound medication to the Bayer Drug Company and he tried to sell it to them. They looked at his new drug and said, "Nah, we don't want that. Aspirin is too prone to addiction, not effective enough, and we've already come up with a new medication. This new medication will cure addiction, relieve all sorts of illnesses from heart trouble to teething pain. It is so good, we're going to name it heroin. It's the hero of all drugs." A recent study by one of the universities involving pain medication has found that aspirin was as effective, if not more so, than 95% of the patent drugs being marketed today. Plus, aspirin was safer to use than all the other drugs. The study has hidden away because aspirin is no longer able to be copywritten by the drug manufacturers. This is a form of lying through omission. They claim their new drugs will alleviate pain, while at the same time you might grow a tail, or your heart might explode. Aspirin is not mentioned by most doctors. You remember the old thing, take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning? They don't say that anymore. Baseball player Steve Garvey was hired by Informa Natural Products Inc. to advertise 2 diet supplements called the Informa System. Taken together, the company claimed that their Fat Trapper and Exercise in a Bottle would stop the absorption of fat and make a person lose weight without diet or exercise. The company were quickly called to task on their lies, and they were forced to pay $10 million for consumer rectification. Funny thing is, most of that $10 million went to lawyers and court costs. Lawsuits continued to pop up concerning the case for 5 years after the commercials were no longer being shown. The FTC tried to sue Steve Garvey in federal court several times for his involvement in the ad, but the courts ruled endorsers were not liable for misleading statements in advertising. They're not politicians. They're not allowed to lie. This led to the FTC making it illegal for celebrities to make false statements in advertising. Congress just hates competition. In England, multiple makeup brands, including L'Oreal, Lancome, and Olay, were involved in similar situations where they photoshopped images of their models to make their skin look smoother, suggesting that their face cream would give the customers the same results. The advertising standards authorities ruled post production was okay as long as the resulting effect was not one which misleadingly exaggerated the effects that the product was capable of achieving. Judging simply by the ad images that they had been altered, completely changing the complexion of the models. They exaggerated the results of the product and defied this rule. In the past, it was common practice for makeup companies to airbrush their models to make them look as if the product would perform miracles for everybody using it. Kind of like how most men's magazines used airbrushing on their photos to make the girls look much better than they really do. Well-known cereal brand Kellogg told people that their Rice Krispies would help support a child's immune system since it had 25% of the daily recommended antioxidants, vitamins, and nutrients being contained in their cereal. They advertised this falsity and prominently on the front of their boxes, and the FTC ordered Kellogg to remove this unproven claim. Otherwise, they were going to be taken to court. Kellogg did remove the claim from their boxes, but they put out a statement adamantly assuring that science proves these antioxidants would support a child's immune system. I don't know what that was all about, but Kathy's getting cranked up again. Steve Warshak spent $374 million on TV commercials, which featured Smilin' Bob, a grinning buffoon who had a big new swing of confidence. Some commercials also featured an equally smiling Mrs. Bob. Warshak even sponsored a NASCAR race team. The trouble was, Enzyte doesn't have any clinical effect on a male genitourinary system whatsoever, and Warshak was overbilling his customers' credit cards. Warshak was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Enzyte was an American herbal nutritional supplement originally manufactured by Berkeley Premium Nutraceuticals. Okay, I don't usually talk about things not family appropriate, but this one I just have to mention. Send the kids out of the room, tell them to go to the backyard and look for buried treasure for about the next 5 minutes. We're going to be discussing an adult subject. The claim was this substance would make a man's reproductive organ bigger. The bigger the thingy, the more confidence a guy would have. It was also supposed to alleviate erectile dysfunction. In March 2005, thousands of customer complaints were made to the Better Business Bureau by dissatisfied customers who were they were all asking for a friend about the company's business practices, especially the auto ship program that repeatedly charged customers credit cards for refills even after their subscriptions had been canceled. The Better Business Bureau contacted the FBI, and the federal agents raided Berkeley facilities, gathering materials that resulted in a 112 count criminal indictment. The company's founder and CEO, Stephen Warshak, and his mother, yes, his mother, Harriet Warshak, were found guilty of conspiracy to commit mail fraud, bank fraud, and money laundering. And in September 2008, they were sentenced to prison and ordered to forfeit $500 million in assets. That's an awful lot of ED treatment. All those people asking for a friend. I can just imagine. Wait, I can just imagine this guy shows up in prison, and the prisoners would say, "What are you in for?" And he would say, "I invented a substance that makes the old thingy bigger." And the prisoner would say, "Oh, so you're the guy that defrauded me and my boys." Warshak and his mother? If I ever had an idea to invent anything to do with that part of the body, I sure wouldn't have asked my mom to get involved. Can you imagine that conversation? Mom, I invented a substance that will make my thingy bigger. Here, look, I used some myself. God, now I got that caught in my head. The convictions and the fines forced the company into bankruptcy, and in December 2008, its assets were sold for $2.75 million to an investment company, Kristen Bay, which now continues operations and they're still marketing the product. The product is now marketed as Viandin LLC in Cincinnati, Ohio. The manufacturer claimed that Enzyte promotes natural male enhancement, which is a euphemism for enhancing erectile function. Its effectiveness has been called into doubt, and the claims of the manufacturer have been under scrutiny for various states and federal organizations. Kenneth Goldberg, medical director of the Male Health Center at Baylor University, said, "It makes no sense medically. There's no way that increasing blood flow to the penis, as Insight claims to do, will actually increase its size." Hmm, That's hard on the voice. Hmm. Now I have to ask, how did they study this substance? Is this one of those government research studies that some clown convinced those folks in Washington was a good idea? Did they hand out free samples to try it at home or more than likely in their office? Because Ensight was on a herbal product, no testing was required by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. An official of the Federal Trade Commission division that monitors advertising said the lack of scientific testing is a red flag right off the bat. There was no science behind any of their claims. The company has conceded that it has no scientific studies that substantiated any of its Enzyte claims. How about the boys in the white lab coats? I'll bet a few of them, no more than 1,000 or so, volunteered to perform a scientific study on whether or not the product worked. Ira Sherlip, a spokesman for the American Urological Association, said, I'm not going to do the voice anymore. There is no such thing as a penis pill that works. These are all things that are sold for profit. There's no science or substance behind any of them. A civil lawsuit alleged Enzyte does not work as advertised, despite manufacturers claiming that Enzyte will increase the thingy size, girth, and firmness, and improve your performance in bed. There exists no scientific evidence that Enzyte is capable of making good on any of these claims. Enzyte has never been scientifically tested by the FDA, or so we're told, or other independent third parties. Enzyte is required by U.S. law to be marketed as an herbal supplement and may not legally be called a drug. Enzyte is not allowed to claim these benefits in its advertising. However, June 2010, TV commercials for the product still used the phrase natural male enhancement. In testimony during the trial, a former executive with Berkeley testified that the enhancement the company claimed were achieved by Enzyte were fabricated, and the company was defrauding their customers by continuing to charge them for additional shipments of the supplement even after they had been canceled. He further testified that company employees were instructed to make it as difficult as possible for unhappy customers to receive their refunds. February 22nd, 2008, Steve Warshak was found guilty of 93 counts of conspiracy, fraud, and money laundering. August 27th, 2008, he was sentenced by U.S. District Judge Arthur Spiegel to 25 years in prison, and he was ordered to pay $93,000 in fines. Warshak became an inmate at the Federal Correctional Institute in Elkton, Ohio. His company, Berkeley Premium Nutraceuticals, along with other defendants, were ordered to forfeit $500 million. His 75-year-old mother, Harriet Warshak, was sentenced to 2 years in prison but was released on bond pending an appeal after turning over her house, her bank account, and all of her assets. Both Steve and Harriet Warshak appealed their convictions. The United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit in United States versus Warshak 2010 upheld their convictions. Just a little something about the Better Business Bureau, the BBB. For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world. You remember that commercial? If you don't recognize that little jingle, I don't know where you've been hiding. Mike Lindell started making pillows back in 1990s. Now, Mike was not one to follow the laws to their fullest. In fact, he was actively using crack while founding his company. He does make the best pillow in the world, which is kind of weird, seeing as crack addicts never sleep. In 2009, Mike was able to stop using drugs and he turned his company into a mega business. He had an A plus rating with the BBB. Donald Trump met with Mike and asked for his endorsement back in 2016. Mike Lindell made a small speech where he endorsed Trump, and the next day the BBB dropped him from an A plus to an F. Mike tried to appeal their decision, but they said, nay, nay. Their rating was based on a super small fraction of consumers, something like 0.001, who said they didn't like their pillows. I think the BBB was upset because, well, that one woman lost the election. If you haven't read his book, What Are the Odds? You're missing quite a story, especially because it's true. And it's got a really cool cover. I like the way he changes expression on it. You're missing a really good story, though, if you haven't read it yet. Or you can listen to the audio book if you just don't like reading. Mike reads it himself. I have both the book and the audio book. We were driving over to McAllen to attend a UFO presentation, and I hooked up the MP3 player to my radio. My wife didn't want to stop listening once we were at the venue. Then on the way home, we were listening and we still had an hour and a half to go when we reached the house. I had to take the player inside and then plug it into a speaker. We didn't finish up until 2 o'clock in the morning. It was that good. Check it out if you get a chance. Just look for What Are the Odds by Mike Lindell. BBB is a bunch of political hacks who will try to destroy anybody not on their side of an argument. That's just my opinion, of course. The FDA is run by folks trying to sell their products. It claims to be there for us, but they get money from the companies they're supposed to be keeping an eye on. This is done in a form of user fees that are charged by the FDA and paid by the folks being looked into. The folks running the place are given cushy jobs by those same companies as soon as they bail out of government work. Makes me wonder just how accurate their conclusions actually are. People are not obsessed by their health because they think they need to take care of themselves. They're obsessed by their health because companies spend millions of dollars telling them that they are. Ever since Edward Bernays convinced people to buy what they wanted instead of what they needed, people have been manipulated by big businesses. Go for the gusto. You deserve a break today. Weekends were made for, well, you get the idea. Around the end of World War II, people lived in houses they could afford on one income. Like I said, I got to stop doing these voices. Uh, People used whatever form of transportation they had. Was it a horse and buggy, a bicycle, or an old beat up pickup? You used what you had. Suddenly, folks were being told not only did they need a bigger house, faster car, fancier wardrobe, they deserved it. People needed to buy more and more things in order to make themselves happy. The neighbors would think there was something wrong, something un American about living the way they could afford. Health is big business, and advertising has led folks down the wrong way in pursuit of health. Diet soda has become a popular alternative to folks that want something sweet to drink, and they've been convinced that sugar is some kind of a poison. The sugar, which is a natural substance, is bad for you, while at the same time, chemicals that make your tongue happy but your body sad are good for you. All those artificial sweeteners have all kinds of weird side effects, things like brain tumors and skin rashes, digestive and nervous trouble. Marketed as a healthier choice, diet sodas are often sweetened with artificial sweeteners like aspartame, sucralose, and saccharin. Despite their calorie free appeal, there's been growing concerns and debate over whether diet soda is genuinely a better choice for your health. More research has been conducted in the last few years, and the health implications of consuming diet soda have come under scrutiny. One of the main concerns about diet soda is its potential link to increased risk of type 2 diabetes and heart disease. Studies have shown that regular consumption of diet soda may be associated with a higher risk of developing chronic conditions. Researchers suggest that even though diet sodas do not contain sugar, the artificial sweeteners they do contain affect the body's ability to regulate glucose, leading to an increased risk of diabetes. Another significant area of research has focused on diet soda's impact on weight management. You go on a diet to lose weight. Actually, a diet is something you are on. It's not something that you get on. While it seems logical to replace sugary sodas with calorie-free versions that it would add in weight loss, evidence suggests the opposite is probably true. Some studies have found a correlation between diet soda consumption and weight gain. One theory is artificial sweeteners disrupt the body's natural mechanisms for regulating hunger, leading to increased appetite and food intake. The potential effects of diet soda on kidney health have also been explored. Research indicates high consumption of diet soda may be linked to decline in kidney function. The exact reason for this association is not fully understood, but it's thought that artificial sweeteners are to blame. There's evidence to suggest diet soda consumption may be associated with an increased risk of dental erosion due to the high acidity content. The acidic nature of diet soda can wear away tooth enamel, leading to cavities and other dental issues. I used to work with a guy who drank 6 or 8 diet sodas in an 8-hour shift. He kept getting fatter. I tried to tell him that the diet soda was to blame, but hey, what do I know? He was last seen looking more like the Michelin Man than a human and still gulping down diet sodas. The simpler answer would be to not consume diet drinks and limit the number of sweet drinks you have each day. I make my own sweet tea. I use sugar and honey to sweeten it, and I drink a glass or two a day. I haven't had a soda in years, and I never drink diet anything. Just watch TV for a few hours, and you'll see a lot of skinny people playing on the beach and drinking diet something or others. It's refreshing. It's healthy. It's going to eat your liver. Don't get me started on light beer. Light beer is often promoted as a beverage that helps those watching their weight and reducing their alcohol intake. It typically contains fewer calories, less alcohol, and sometimes fewer carbohydrates compared to regular beer. It still has alcohol, and too much will land you in jail or the cemetery. The advertisers show young people having all kinds of fun, camping or hanging out with their friends. They gloss over the people crashing their cars, getting into fights, waking up in unknown locations, and having to ask their friends just how much fun did they have over the weekend. That's not gusto, that's foolishness. What's with all the obsession with weight loss and health? Folks became desperate to look the way they think others think they should look. They are seeking the perfect body that doesn't exist. Desperation leads to trying anything, which leads to all kinds of scams. Scammers post ads online for things like weight loss pills, patches, belts, meals, electric gizmos, or creams. The ads often look like news reports about a miraculous new product to help you lose weight without dieting or exercise. Instant success. You can lose 20 pounds overnight by using this substance or such. All you need to do is send in a few hundred, maybe a few $1,000 to some company's address in Nevada, probably Las Vegas. And you'll be on your way to a beautiful new body and a healthier lifestyle. Why do I pick on Las Vegas? It's home to a lot of bogus call centers that move each month in order to avoid law enforcement. The scammers might even steal logos from real news organizations to make their posts seem more real. And now with AI, you can take any celebrity you want and you can make them say anything you want. If you're enticed to take the next step and check out the reviews, you're going to find all kinds of positive, glowing uh, things from people who claim to have used the product. Scammers often write themselves up in glowing terms, or they will pay somebody else to do it. Some with dramatic before and after pictures. Usually, these pictures had nothing to do with the product, they simply get them off the internet. Scammers will say just about anything to get you to buy their weight loss or fitness products. To spot a scam, keep your eyes open for somebody saying you don't have to watch what you eat to lose weight. Uh, Anybody saying that their product helps you lose weight permanently. If anybody says to lose weight, all you have to do is take their pill. If somebody promises that you can lose 30 pounds in 30 days, it doesn't work that way. If it took you a couple of years to get out of shape, it's probably going to take you a couple of years to get back into shape. If anybody claims that their product works for everybody, they're lying to you. These scammers put disclaimers in tiny print. The refund, if not satisfied, has conditions that are buried in the so-called privacy declarations. Just like that company Steve Warshak had created, to get a refund, you're going to have to get Congress to actually do something. Using an electric muscle stimulator alone will not work. You might have seen ads for electric muscle stimulators claiming they'll help you lose weight and get rock hard abs. These devices may temporarily make your muscles stronger, but eventually they just stop working. If you decide to join a gym, make sure you know what you're signing up for. Not all gym contracts are the same. Before you commit, try reading the contract if you can understand what it says, and get the salesperson to explain it, which they probably don't even know what it says. If you cancel, do you get all your money back? Don't bother reading the reviews. They were probably written by the guy you're talking to. Most gyms do offer a fairly good deal. A monthly charges that are usually made automatically. The folks who own the gyms know most people will join and then stop showing up as soon as their muscles start to hurt. They won't cancel their membership because they'll keep saying, well, I'm going to start going again next month, next month, next month, until a year has gone by and the gym has made a lot of money and the person has never been there. Home exercise equipment can be a great way to shape up if you don't feel like hanging around with a bunch of people in too small of spandex, but only if you use it. Some exercise equipment ads promise you can shape up and lose weight quickly without a whole lot of effort. The truth is, to get the benefits of exercise, you gotta work. If the muscle doesn't hurt when you're done exercising, you're not exercising. Some companies advertise 3 easy payments of $49.99, but they don't include shipping, handling, taxes, all the other things that are included in the price. You need to do a little digging. There are thousands of home fitness toys sitting in back rooms, closets, and under people's beds, collecting dust and not making anyone healthy. That total satisfaction claim is only usable if you pay the shipping to return this super heavy item to the company, and that sometimes costs more than the equipment is worth. Academy stores are found in 16 states. If you don't have an academy in your state or nearby, you should move or find a company that you believe is reputable. You can buy your own health equipment, start with just a few small items. Don't buy an entire workout set. You don't know if you're going to use it or not. One or two weights, and then slowly work up. As the pain increases just a little bit, you are less likely to stop using them. I sometimes get a bit of grief from folks who say, you drive a foreign made vehicle. I have a Honda Ridgeline that was manufactured in Lincoln, Alabama. The only actual foreign part of my truck is the transmission. Everything else was made here in the United States. Until recently, Chevys and Fords were all built in Mexico. To claim to be made in America, the product has to contain 60% parts that are made in the US. The parts are then shipped into Mexico, assembled, and then shipped back. My Japanese pickup has more parts made in the United States than Chevy and Ford combined. We used to watch hundreds of car carriers coming north out of Mexico, hauling thousands of Chevys and Fords. To add to the problem, there are only 8 or 10 different keys for each model. People can steal the key sets, come north looking for vehicles that those keys go to. Why break a window when you've got the keys right there in your hand? Someday soon, Made in America might actually mean something, but we're waiting for those folks in Washington to do something. Who was the genius that decided that all of our manufacturing should be shipped over to other countries? Oh, it's that folks in Washington again. The elites who think they know better than the rest of us. And they're the ones making the enormous profits. Anytime you hear military grade, just think it's the lowest bidder. Lots of companies like to say their product is military grade. So just think cheap whenever you hear that term. Now for the fun part. Just because you see something sounds absolutely bonkers doesn't mean it's a scam. There are products out there that do incredible things. It's near impossible to sort out the lies from the truth. You have to do some digging, reading, searching to find out if a earthing pad will actually work or not. You have to find out if Chuck Norris's morning kick actually makes you feel better in the morning. Plus, just because something works for one person doesn't mean it'll work for everyone. Hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, spread it around. Tell people you don't know that they should be listening to Strange Things with Chris James. Until next time, see y'all later.
Are you coming to the tree where there's strung up a man who they say he murdered 3? Strange things have happened there. No stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree.